Shmirchik, Kvetcher's Corner, where you'll experience all the unpleasantness that comes with me. So, yeah. Yeah, welcome to Shmirchik, Kvetcher's Corner, where you will experience all the unpleasantness. I shouldn't say that, right? Because I am wonderful. So, anyway, I want to see if it's working on here or if it's right. 1 second. Let's just check how it's going. Right? My internet is not the best. I am coming to you from an undisclosed location, and let's see how it is in here. Okay, system works. Right. So, yeah, there's been a lot going on, right? Lots of stuff going on in the past week and a half, right? And I want to discuss it. It's very interesting for me because you have Nick Fuentes, who's running around like a clown, right? And Nick Fuentes is running around and telling Dave Rubin to go back to Israel. And on the one hand, I actually appreciate what like Nick Fuentes says in some ways when he says things like Jews should go back to Israel, right? So to me, on the one hand, that is actually, on the one hand, it's anti-Semitic because, telling a Jew to go back to anywhere, it's why are you telling us where to go? It's not your business. We're allowed to live. We're free people. We're allowed to live where we want, right? And you don't own America, Nick. You don't own America. Get that through your little pea brain. But I do appreciate that he acknowledges that Israel is for Jewish people, right? And so that is something that's actually, ironically, something that Nick Fuentes acknowledges, which is something that, it's interesting for me, right? So that's one thing that I've been thinking about. And the other thing is, but he is an anti-Semite and a little Nazi. Hi, Wadis. Hi, Smoother. Everything's fine, just not better than you. Oh, that's very sweet. So, right. So, as you can see, I'm not in my comfort zone, right? I'm in my comfort zone, but I'm not in my comfort zone, right? It's nice to see you smiling. Hi, Cassandra. Hi, Chloe Harris. I don't know who all these people are, right? So, basically, I want to talk about the news, what's been happening in Israel, right? One of the things that's been happening is about the hostages, how the perversion of Hamas, right? What they did with the hostage bodies, and with taking different body parts and putting it in different other people's bodies, right? Like taking different organs from like one hostage and putting it in a dead Palestinian body. Like that's something that Hamas did, which was really traumatic. So, I'm glad that I'm not there to to hear about it, because when you're in Israel, right, it sits with you differently. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you're there and it's your people. Do you know what I'm saying? And yeah, there's a lot that's been going on, and it's really sad that in New York we're gonna have a Muslim. We're going to have a Muslim mayor, sadly, because nobody's gonna vote for Cuomo. I mean, people are voting for him, but I know people who are voting for Cuomo, but you have crazy people who are like suicidal. You have Jewish people in New York that think that somehow, Jewish people in New York that think that somehow electing a Nazi Hitlerian lover, who calls for intifada on Jews is somehow okay. Do you know what I'm saying? Um, Hi, Sukera. Um, Somehow that's okay, right? To have somebody who loves the idea of globalizing the intifada, right? And so for me, if you're a normal person and you're not suicidal, you're not going to be interested in anyone that talks about globalizing the intifada, because we all saw what happened in England on Yom Kippur in a synagogue, right? And um yeah, and so I didn't first of all, I didn't really want to say where I am because I have some. It's a little bit frightening because I didn't really do a good job of whatever. It's just a little bit frightening because if you have some stalkers, people who stalk you, it's a little bit scary, right? So you don't want them to know where you are. You know what I'm saying? You have to be really careful on the internet, my friends. So I'm in an undisclosed location. And yeah, so it's been very, very busy. So this whole thing with Mamdani, right? So the Jewish people the Jewish people who have their brains, their heads screwed on straight, right? And they're not suicidal. They are very worried if Mamdani gets elected. But then you have people who are from the Satmar community, for example, and you have people who are from the Satmar community who are gonna vote for Mamdani for some reason. And part of me thinks that the reason why they will vote for him is because they think they can control him. They think that they can buy him off and control him, right? Because a lot of the time, the way the Jewish community, I'm not talking about the smaller minority communities. I'm talking about the Jewish communities that have the most influence, which are the Satmars, right? Because they have the very large community, right? Um, so they will be able to. They think that they'll be able to control him. They'll be able to buy him off. They'll be able to uh, get what they want from him, which is basically to have their communities be safe from hooligans and to have a stronger police presence, even though somehow that Mamdani is anti-police, right? So I'm not sure how that would work. You know what I'm saying? With the Satmar community, I don't know what they're thinking for when they're hosting Mamdani. I don't know if they're gonna actually vote for him, really. Um, right? The most targeted ethnic group is the Jews. Yeah, if you focus on your goal and you get many, what? You will get many. I don't know what you're saying. Titlebound brothers, Satmar's heretics. Neuter Turkard, Satmar's heretics. Yeah, but they are heretics. But most of the Satmar are not Neturkarta. They're not. Neturkarta is a very tiny element within Satmar. They're not the majority of the Satmars, right? Um, yeah, city council overrides mayor's authority. Anyway, I don't know how it works, right? I don't really know how it works. So I, you know, I would vote for Curtis Sliwa because, first of all, he always stood with the Jewish community, and I actually saw I saw on one of these YouTube channels where there are Jewish people who are basically interviewing Curtis Lewa, right? And people call in to ask questions. Apparently, Curtis Lewa's wife, um, she was pro-Palestine, right? Who's anti-Zionist. The Satmar group is a small minority in Brooklyn compared to Chabad. They are around 200 groups. Satmar is actually, I'm not sure how big they are. I don't know the numbers, but they're very prominent. Do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting how the Jewish people live in. Curtis Lewa should definitely be mayor of New York City, but he's not going to get in because he wore a weird hat. So people didn't like that, and they're stupid. They're picky, and they are he's what he calls himself eccentric, so people will not vote for that. You know what I'm saying? His wife is not. I don't know anything about his wife. I just saw a video of them both, and it's very cute. They seem to be happy together, and the he's always stood by the Jewish community in New York City, and he did great things for many years for New York City to keep it safe. So he has my vote, but um, you know, the whole thing is it's unreal. But as you know, I pulled the cards, and I think I didn't get a lot of information, but I think if Mamdani wins, he won't be able to do any damage. No, he will be able to do lots of damage, but not enough to really destroy New York City. And he won't be able to get any of his ideas about communism and socialism done because he has zero experience and he wouldn't know where to start and he wouldn't know what to do. So he would be completely useless. So I'm not really so worried if he gets elected, even though things, I might be wrong, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think I should worry, but on the other hand, I think he's useless. Like, he never actually had a job in his life. So, this would be his first job and he would do an awful job, my friends. Yeah, what is exactly? Hi, only love Yahweh. Thank you. Williamsburg Borough Park, Satmar, Yiddish language only. Yeah. You think Cuomo is a mafia creep? He looks depressed to me. When I watched when I was in Israel, uh I watched the debate, right? And he looks very depressed to me, like he is going down. Do you know what I'm saying? Bye, Motorhead. Uh, he looks like he is a little bit depressed. I don't think Cuomo will win. You never know. Right? The Jewish community were very upset with the way he dealt with COVID. So I don't know who's voting for him. But Curtis Sliwa, he's a good guy. You know what I mean? So what's been happening, my friends, lately in Israel? I've been following the news just to, check out what's going on. Because I'm not there now. The Jerusalem Post. Hamas is given 24 hours to withdraw from IDF's yellow line in Gaza. U.S. officials tell Post. Right. So basically, Hamas is breaking. They're breaking the ceasefire. They've broken it from day one, and basically, Israel is not completely inside of Gaza, but they are bombing it. So it's not really a ceasefire. It's kind of a joke. Everyone knew it would be a joke because Hamas can't keep to any part of a deal. Do you know what I'm saying? I did not move. I am just outside of Israel now. Yeah, I still live in Israel. My dog and cat are being watched by my neighbors. Right, so then you have people who they're finding bodies slowly but surely that need to be returned to Israel because they were slaughtered by Hamas, right? And where does this money come from? That's my brother. Okay. Who was Amiram Cooper, one of Kibbutz Nir Oz's founders, murdered in Hamas captivity? Then it goes on to say who are these people that were murdered and their bodies are coming back, right? And so IDF in hot water with moderate Lebanese president over disputed village shooting. So there's little skirmishes going on, like drama, right? Just checking the daily news. Thank you, Wise. My internet is slow. I don't know what to do. Yeah, it's just I don't like to tell people where I am because I don't need freaks coming after me. You know what I mean? So, yeah, hostage bodies identified as Amiram Cooper and Sahar Baruch. Israel says hostage crisis far from resolved. Yep. Sadeh Teman leak tied to top IDF lawyer office. So there's a reservist is found dead after taking his own life, right? So there's a huge crisis within Israel with the soldiers that are killing themselves, like ex-soldiers or people who survived the Nova music massacre, and they survived it. A lot of them are taking their lives because they witnessed such horror and they can't. Without the therapists and the psychiatrists, because it's such a big shortage, people, if they need help, they have to wait in line to get services for, um, especially if they're getting, especially if they're not independent, right? If they're getting from the insurance, right? The Israeli insurance, which is socialized like healthcare. So, right? So there's not enough people that are able to deal with the trauma because Israel's a very traumatized nation. And now that I'm in America, right, and I see what's going on, and I understand why the Jewish community does not want to move to Israel. I understand it, my friends. Like, because Israel is a very tough country to live in. It's a harsh reality, but at the same time, it's a beautiful country with such. It's very vibrant, right? It's alive. It's like the feeling that you get. I don't know, the life force that you feel when you're in Israel is the same when you go into like a nursery school, right? You drop your kid off to the nursery school, right? Or you drop your kid to a school, right? And you enter and you see all the kids running around and you feel the life force in it, the energy of the the active life force, the energy of those children that are alive, right? You feel it. That's the feeling on a regular day without being in a school in Israel, without on a calm day in your house. That's the feeling of being in Israel. That's the life force you feel. It's pulsating, it's energy, it's Israel is alive, right? And so that's something that is very special about Israel. Do you know what I'm saying? And so what's my point, right? The point is that how does that tie in, right? How does that tie into Israel and the reservists taking their lives and people just not being able to handle the trauma? So, you know, so on the one hand, you have in Israel, you have the life force, right? You have the land is alive, right? The earth speaks a huge history. The people have this amazing energy, but right. But on the other hand, you have this whole issue with the trauma, right? There's so much trauma, and there are so many people that are just there are so many people that are just they've experienced so much because of the terror in Israel, and right, and it's a fighting army, it's a fighting country, it's a fighting civilization, and every family is involved, right? Everybody has a cousin or a brother or sister that's in the army or who has been killed in fighting in war, right? And so there's that fighting spirit in Israel, right? And you have the people who are not getting the treatment that they need because there's a shortage of doctors. And the reason why there's a shortage of doctors is because the anyone who'd want to become a doctor, a lot of them they go into a military career, right? Because they're very good at it. And those who finish the military and choose to be a doctor, they only start out late, right? They only start out their education to be a doctor late in the game. And most of the Muslims who are Israeli Arabs, they get to become doctors because they start out early because they don't have to do they're not forced to do the IDF. They're not drafted, right? Unless they want to serve. And so most of the doctors most of the doctors and the nurses in the hospitals, in Israeli hospitals, are Arab, and lots of them are nice. But you know my feelings on jihadis being doctors, right? So You can't really, you don't know where you stand with them, right? So, yeah. So, you know, right? So, on the one hand, like leaving Israel and coming to America, it's very dark here. Do you know what I'm saying? The energy is gray. The energy is so, everybody seems to be in some sort of dream. And it's okay, it's a different reality. And it's a different reality, right? And so I understand why the Jewish people inside of America, for example, hi Casey, um, equality is actually a Jewish concept, if you think about it, right? Because where do you even get the concept of that? It's from Judaism, right? Like all humans are created in the image of God. That is Judaism. We taught you that. So you don't need to preach to me. You should preach to your own people who reject the 7 laws of Noah. Okay? So, yeah, Wattis. So, um, where was I? Yeah. So, the Jewish people in America, for example, as long as there's no major massacre of Jews, and as long as there is no state sanctioned pogroms, right? As long as there's no, um, in the states, right? Anti Semitism coming from the state, Jewish people won't want to leave America because, first of all, let's start talking practically. First of all, quality of things here is really good quality, right? For example, you want to clean your house, you go to the store and um, you buy an all-purpose cleaner, right? This all-purpose cleaner is literally good quality. You just need a few sprays and it cleans everything. In Israel, an all-purpose cleaner, it does nothing, literally. And literally, it does nothing. They don't have any good chemicals. They haven't developed, they don't make real good quality stuff, right? If you want anything really good quality, you have to pay triple the price in Israel. That goes also with the clothes, right? So if you go shopping, right? For instance, this sweater I bought in Israel is polyester and I got it for $10, right? And it's polyester. You want to get quality, you want to get cotton, or you want to get something like wool, you have to pay triple the price, right? And you have to only get it in certain stores. And here in America, you want to buy something quality, you can get it for very cheap. And so the quality of life in America, in some ways, is very high quality, right? Everything is just so much abundance, and people don't even appreciate that, right? Like all these people that are screaming for socialism and communism, go to a socialist country and you'll understand how much you have in a capitalist society. Even if you think that somehow free Medicaid will somehow liberate you by having free insurance, right? Nothing is free. My father always says, nothing in this life is for free, only the cheese on the mousetrap, right? Right, so many Americans live in a rosy dream world thanks to the ocean barrier. The reality Israel's witnesses belongs to the living flesh and blood world. I mean, what's going on in Israel is war. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, even if the cities in Israel are not being completely demolished, there's still an element of, when you live there, you understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, there's no bombs dropping. Yeah, okay, fine. No, take that back. The Houthis are dropping bombs on Israel, but Israel intercepts it. So you don't really feel it so much. You just get the sirens and you run to the bomb shelter and you hear it exploding. And the shrapnel lands, but you don't necessarily die because, thank God, we, the Jewish people, the Israelites, we have the protection of the one invisible God of Israel, and we have basically developed skills of survival, right? And so in a way, it's not full blown war, but it is. If Americans had to live that way, they would be terrified, right? They would be traumatized. They wouldn't be able to handle it, right? So, but this is normal life in Israel. So there's war and then there's war. right? And so, right, um, back to the Jewish people in America, for example, they like their quality of life here. Do you know what I'm saying? And a lot of the time, they won't really feel the anti-Semitism so much because Jewish people a lot of the time do business within their own communities. They live within their own little bubble, right? And so they can feel more or less secure in their own little shtetl type of community. It's not ghetto, but it's, you know, everybody does business with everybody. The society that they live in, it's very, uh, the community, it's insular. Do you know what I'm saying? It's very nice. It's actually very nice. So, but, right, as we know, anti-Semitism happens every day, and it's a very scary reality that Jewish people live with, and they don't even though they're living with it in America and elsewhere, they don't even realize how bad it is and how bizarre it is because, in a way, they live in their own little bubble, and when it happens to one of their community, right, it's scary, but they all support that person that got attacked and hi f tab, and also like so there's that type of thing, and there's also you know, the mentality in Israel, it's very harsh. We have to be real. And it's not easy to live in Israel, right? Like, as much as the economy is okay in Israel now, the quality is, the quality in some ways is much better than America, right? There's fresh air a lot of the time. There is, um, the food is fresh. The, the energy is different, right? It's a different type of lifestyle. Most Israelis are hippies, right? But I mean, they're not literal hippies. There's hippies, and then there's all different kinds of people in Israel. But it's not the same. It's not laid back like America. You know what I'm saying? America is very spread out, and America is very laid back, and people are very have their own space, and people live, a different type of mentality altogether. So, for a Jewish person to go and uproot themselves from the comforts of how they're living, and there's a minority of Jewish people that are really struggling. I'm not sure exactly the numbers, but I'm having this discussion with people, and they're telling me that most Jewish people in America, they're actually pretty well off, and they're comfortable, and they have their homes, and they really enjoy their lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? And good for them. And right. I'm like, yeah. Um, so anyway, um, and this bubble's shrinking by the day. Rebecca associates everything happening today with the 1930s. She argues that the Nazis were built by the left that diverged from the mainstream right. Yeah, just like today, they were supported by individuals with unconventional religions, right? Religious views. So it's not unconventional. The Nazis were just like, people don't get it that what happened in the Holocaust to the Jewish people, it wasn't something that, it wasn't a new thing. It wasn't a new thing. It was not a new thing. The Christians have been butchering Jews for 2,000 years. Every other week there was another massacre, right? State-sanctioned massacres on Jewish people in Europe. So the Holocaust was just a culmination of the Jew hatred of Christians towards Jews. Hitler got all his ideas from the New Testament. We all know that, and from the theologians like Martin Luther, for example. Thank you, Wadis. So, right? So it's very interesting. So a lot of the Jewish people in America, they don't want to pick up and move to a war zone. They don't want that. It's hard, my friends. It's very hard. And also, the services in Israel, the socialized healthcare, free Medicaid, it's not free. Free medicine, it's not free. Okay? You pay what, like Mamdani wants to do in New York, you pay with it. you pay for it with half your taxes. Half your paycheck will go to the free socialized health care, right? So you're going to be making much less money. You're going to be struggling much more, and you're going to have to pay more taxes, and you might have health care, but you won't have money for food. So, do you know what I'm saying? In Israel, right, they have a very good system, right? But still, because it's government run insurance, right? They don't. There is no customer